Is that, no. So first and foremost, a warm welcome also from my side, and thank you so much, Mr. Wintergers, for the nice introduction to that topic. And first of all, also kudos to Bitkom, because the topic with big data and AI and the combination is so relevant, what we see, because as you rightfully said, I mean, there's no meaningful AI without data. And your sense of urgency is so important for all of us, because I truly believe we don't need to only talk about AI, we actually need to do it, and we need to start now. And you mentioned a couple of examples. You mentioned digital. Okay, so I need to switch. Is that better? Perfect. So, because you mentioned digital, and also here, digital transformation is a topic we talked since actually decades, but the reality is, how far are companies on the digital transformation? Since 2010, we talk about Industry 4.0. How far are we with Industry 4.0? And I think with AI, we all need to ensure that we walk the talk and we make it a reality, because this train is so fast moving and already left the station. Because I think that is also an important topic for me. AI is nothing new. We experience a new hype of the AI cycle. And that's also something which I want to talk about. The reality is, if you look to the history, the first time the term AI was coined was in 1956. And there's a lot of innovation and development and research into that topic. And I think that's something what we need to consider. And actually, for sure, AI, and now where we are, it is a disruptive moment in the industry. It is a disruptive, revolutionary technology for all of us, what we need actually to harvest. And if we use it correctly, it can be, and actually I believe it need to be, a game changer for our companies, and for sure, as you rightfully pointed out, for each and every individual, how we actually work in the future, how businesses are run in the future, and with that, hopefully also have an impact on the entire world and society overall. And all these technology disruptions is coming with uncertainties and fears. So education and transparency about what it can bring is so important. And what you also see on that slide is this significant increase in data, which is actually one of the success criteria to make AI truly relevant and meaningful, to be quite honest. And what you see here on the slide is an expectation that we will have 291 zettabyte of data in 2027. And now, I don't want to ask you if you know how many zeros actually zettabyte have. You can Google it for yourself. But think about the significant exponential growth. Only from 2026 to 2027, in this 1 year, we will, on an absolute growth, create more data in 1 year than we have in the entire history of humanity up till the year 2020. That's the growth what we will see. And for sure, this growth will come also from generative AI, which will fundamentally create this kind of data in the future. But actually, why is that now such a big topic? And basically, since the introduction of ChatGPT, everybody actually could feel it, everybody could see it. And I think it's so important that if technology is accessible to people, and we talk within 5 days, more than 1 million users of ChatGPT, and in less than 2 months, more than 100 million people who experience generative AI. And that helped for sure to drive that revolution forward, because everybody really can feel it, what is possible, what is not possible, which is amazing. But what needed to happen actually that this moment started? 3 things need to come together, and that's what we see. On the one hand side, we need data, and you just saw the significant increase in data across the world. The second thing is for sure also the advancements in the computing, because you also need to process all this data. Imagine how many billions of data you need to process to get these respective outcomes, which we want to see. And last but not least, the advancements in the architecture for the transformer architecture was the breakthrough that we really can have really foundational large models, and large language models is for sure just one of the representations in this regards, which is basically important to really have a multitude of use cases which you can use in this regard. So all of these 3 come together. The big questions I get always asked, is it just marketing, or is it a true new platform like the internet? And I think if you study a little bit the history about platform and what is critical for platform to be a sustainable reality for the future, it always comes with a marginal cost curve down to 0. in the internet, why did the internet become so successful and a platform for the future? Because the marginal cost for distribution of information came down to zero. It was basically for free to, on a global scale, spread information. Why did the cloud become a platform? Because the marginal cost for storage on a global scale fundamentally came down to zero. And what is now with generative AI? With generative AI, we see that the marginal cost for content creation gets down to zero. And that's exactly the correlation of a reason why generative AI is not just a hype. It will define a next platform in all of what I discussed together. So it is a unique moment in which we live. And this change is happening. We cannot wait. We cannot wait for regulation. We cannot wait for somebody else. This is happening now, and we all need to get our hands steady, roll up the sleeves, and get used to what we can do with AI in this regards. For us, for sure, we see the opportunity in all of that. We see how actually generative AI can help all of us to increase productivity, to get to new business models, to really help everybody to work better in the future. And that's what we want to do. So we come with a positive, optimistic lineup to the future. But also, we are absolutely cognizant of the concerns and the risks. That's also the reason why I titled actually this keynote, is it a duet or a duel between the human and the machine? And for sure, we need to give that answer. It's us who need to get active and take that answer. And that's something where I also appreciate this kind of forums where we get together the various diversity of everybody involved in the field, from the universities, research institutions, companies, thought leaders, researchers. We all need to get together to define that future. For us as a company, we see that as a responsibility and obligation to help in this regards. We have more than 400,000 customers on a global scale. More than 87% of the world's commerce is flying through an SAP system, which means we are aware about our role and what we as a company need to do to provide a responsible, reliable AI. And that's the reason why we are, as a company, decided to go all in with AI, to define business AI. And it's also our strategy as a company to really think, what is the next generation of enterprise software? And AI is for sure deeply embedded in every application. AI will be deeply embedded in every process step along the chain, what we see in this regards. And also, what is very important for us as a company, we are actually aware that our customers take the most business-critical decisions in our systems. And we are aware about that. And that comes for sure with a responsibility for us. Because the reality is, in a business context, nobody wants hallucinations. The word hallucination, which is also alongside with the generative AI term, goes up. This is something you cannot afford. If you take a business-critical decision, you need to be able to rely on the outcome of AI. And that's something where you can be assured is our key focus to have relevant, reliable, and responsible AI outcomes in this regards. The advantage what SAP has, because of the 400,000 customers we have, because of the data treasure all of these customers share, we can actually work to provide these meaningful, trained AI models. We have the consent of more than 25,000 customers who actually told us, please use that data to train AI. And now, SAP will build an SAP foundational model. What is that? What can you expect about that? Think about simple terms. 25,000 customers which share the data with us. We have more than 200,000 database tables in our applications across the entire processes which we support. And in each and every single table, we have billions of entries. And that's what we will bring together in an SAP foundational model. You can basically call it the wisdom of the crowd of the entire industries to take the right respective decision. So what we actually do as a company for our customers, that whenever a user sends a prompt, we take that prompt, and first and foremost, we ensure that there's no bias. We ensure that there's no racism, which means every prompt you send, we will add with a meta prompt. Because not every user knows how to prompt correctly. I mean, prompt engineering is a good new thing, but if I would ask, most probably also here in the room, Not everybody is trained to know what is required. That, again, we avoid bias, we avoid discrimination. And that's the reason we as a company help with the meta prompt. But then if the prompt goes down, we do actually three things. On the one hand side, we lead the request to the real-time transactional data we have from the customer in the system. We also use the SAP foundational model to basically collect the wisdom of the crowd. And we use the best existing large language models, which we leverage to bring all of this context together. And that is a reliable answer for our customers. Because again, our customers need to be able to trust SAP in the business context. Hallucination cannot be acceptable in this regards. And that's a responsibility we take over. That's also the reason why SAP, since years actually, is not only investing in AI. Just to give you some sense, we have in the meantime more than 24,000 customers who already use AI. We have more than 130 AI use cases already shipped, and for sure now with generative AI, that's the next horizon which we see, and more than 80 scenarios which in the next quarters will be delivered to our customers. But also the topic about ethics is nothing new. SAP started with an AI Ethics Council already in 2018. So we didn't wait for any regulation. We started it. And it's an external participation as well. And every single use case goes through the AI Ethics Council. Again, with external participation. We will not build any use case which is not living up to our high standards for ethics and compliance, which is absolutely important. Last year, SAP, with more than 105,000 employees, every single employee needed to sign an AI ethics policy. Every employee, because everybody is in the contact with AI and touching AI. So every employee needed to sign that policy that we can also, again, ensure with the trust we provide to our customers that you can fully rely on that one. And I think what is super important for me, and you mentioned it, we in this country and in this continent, we need to get together and we need to thrive actually. And the reality though is more than 75% of the world's AI models are developed in US, 13% in China. So now you can say the remaining 12%, 190 countries on this planet are doing only 12%. And that's including India and the European Union, including for sure Germany. So as of today, we are in nowhere's land. We need to accelerate the speed to get this in flavor. And that's also the reason why we all need to come together. Again, research institutions like the Fraunhofer, Aleph Alpha, I saw that Jonas was yesterday on stage, and for sure also companies to really drive that forward. And we cannot wait. We need to start now. Again, as I mentioned, this train has left the station already. And I also would appreciate an innovation-friendly policy. I can only encourage that. And I also appreciate this value-based approach because we also need to differentiate in this world with a value system where for sure we know that actually data is a treasure and we need to keep it in the right moment. But it also should not be in a case that based on data regulation that this is actually touching the innovation capabilities. And what I also would like all of us to have more the conversation about how all the data regulations and AI regulations come together and how we bridge that. Because coming back to my initial statement, in the end of the day, there's no AI without data, and with many different data regulations and data protection regulations, we also now start talking about AI regulations, and what would be the worst if that's not aligned, because you cannot differentiate between the two, and that's certainly something what I would love to see more. And this is also something where I feel actually that we also need not only to talk about how we regulate data and AI, but also what it means for our society. And that, think about education system. You talked about my young daughter who is 4 years old. Imagine what kind of world these children will grow up with what kind of power they have in their hands, in their pockets, every single day. So the topic about knowledge, transfer of knowledge, how you can actually act in this reality, what kind of skills do you need? On the one hand side, perhaps more technical skills, but also on the other hand side, more human skills, more soft skills for emotional intelligence, for relationships, for how to get together with people, because that's differentiating us today and also in the future. And this is something where I feel we need also more debate about how we, on the mid and long term, get this together. But what is now SAP doing actually in this context? Actually, we believe, as mentioned, we will embed AI in everything what we do, fundamentally. We also believe we need to rethink existing capabilities and processes with the power of AI. And that comes along in many shapes and forms, what you can imagine. And that there are some categories, some big ticket categories. On the one hand side, think about you have in every moment of your life somebody at your side which is helping you with new information, with data to help you drive decisions, like a digital co-pilot which is at your side you can rely on. And how often have you been sitting in a company in front of your laptop and ask yourself a couple of questions and now somebody's helping you. And this is something which is a reality. There will be a digital assistant. You can basically ask him every question. You get every analytics on the fingertips in real time with all the combinations what you see. And that's with these insights and recommendations you can drive better in your job. On the other hand side, think about self-optimizing, self-learning business processes. We already started also here in a good co-innovation, for instance, with Aleph Alpha, that we leverage our process mining capabilities and the power of Aleph Alpha to think about how can you optimize business processes and a business process model for companies. And we can benchmark that, again, across 400,000 companies to really be able to drive process optimization. But we also can now actually use that process optimization and change the configuration of the systems as well. And that's a loop which we can fundamentally establish. So have a continuous optimization of your business processes based on AI. And last but not least, for sure, AI can help you in your transformation. And that's a key aspect. And that starts with if you need a differentiating capability where you want to extend an existing program or application, fundamentally, you can generate the code for sure, also with generative AI. You can build your own applications on top of the existing standard products which you use to differentiate in the market. And that's all what we can bring together in this regards to really help our customers to thrive. And that's also something where we intensively looked about how we can bring that together. For us as a strategy, we believe this is an ecosystem approach. I think in the topic of AI, like by the way also in sustainability, it only comes if we get together. That's also the reason why you see SAP with partnerships with Microsoft and OpenAI, Google, IBM, Aleph Alpha, Anthropic, Cohere, and many, many more, because we want to use the best technology on a foundational level on the market. But the key is that we leverage it in the context of the data, of the business data, the context of the business process to help users strive to make the best decisions. And that's something where I feel is super important. Also in the inclusion with research institutions like Fraunhofer, where we will research for trustworthy AI. And also here, we need to first get more into this depth. And that's something what we want to do. And now, we often talk about it, and sometimes I'm the product head of SAP, sometimes also good actually to look at an example. How does that actually look like? How does such a new scenario look like in the real world? And that's the reason I actually would like to give you a sneak preview actually about one of the use cases that you get an impression a little bit. What is possible? On what topics do we work? Because I also feel, to a point, sometimes we talk AI in a very abstract level, but the reality is this becomes real. And all of our more than 290 million users in the cloud will experience that. Most of you know shared service centers. It's a concept also from the past. You standardize processes and you want to have the respective optimization. Now think about I'm an accounts payable service clerk in a company, larger company with many requests. What you see here is the dashboard with the respective details on every case which is coming in the shared service framework. What you already can see is the automation success rate. So basically 32% of all the cases get automatically anyway answered by AI. If I go to that, I see what happened, what did AI do, and I see already that basically AI has a tremendous productivity improvement. But for sure, we believe that the human needs to be in the loop. That's one of our key ethical principles as a company. We want to have a human in the loop to take the final business critical decisions. And then you see already different cases. And in this case, you see it's already prepared by AI, but the confidence level is quote by quote only 80%. And again, with 80% confidence, you don't want to take a business decision with 80%, which means, okay, this is something I want to look into as a service clerk and see what's happening. Automatically on one picture, I see already that generative AI is summarizing actually this case. So you see there was an email and a request for a dedicated invoice, and AI will automatically do a sentiment analysis. I see, is it a positively written, is it a complaint, and what's the sentiment of that? and already the summary of the entire email chain, which again helps me dramatically to speed up. I also see that the system automatically categorizes the case in the right way, that also the right service clerk is automatically be able to process it, that you don't need to have this ping pong between who's actually taking care in this regards. What is also happening automatically in the background, we connect all the relevant business context, all the invoices, all the PDFs, we automatically scan all the documents and the data, and for sure, we see the entire process flow, how this happened, what's the status in this regards. And that's for sure helping us to see there's a problem, and here there's a payment block, and now I want to use actually a digital assistant who actually helps me on that regards. I need more information why there's a payment block. I can go even further and see, okay, there's an invoice verification topic. In this regards, let's release the payment block, and AI will actually do the rest for me in this regard. So fundamentally, this Copilot is now helping me to get my job done, and fundamentally, a new recommendation comes up from the system. Let's also inform the supplier about that. Generative AI will automatically create the email, and now, as I know this supplier quite some time, I want to refine a little bit the generative AI response, because I don't want to only have a small email. Let's make it a little bit longer. I know this supplier, make it a little bit more casual, and automatically generative AI will take in the background all the relevant data from the real-time system, from our SAP foundational model, and a large language model, which is fundamentally creating the text what you see here, and that with that information, I can then basically send this request to the supplier and automatically process the next steps. So what you have seen now is AI is embedded natively in all of the operational work processes of a user. And that's what you see now in a shared service scenario, and that's what you will see in every single scenario. It will be the norm. And let me repeat that. AI will be the norm. And that's what we need to consider in what we do now, that in a couple of years, again, nobody will talk about AI. It will be norm. There will be no software provider on this planet where AI will not be naturally embedded in each and every single application, what we experience. So this is a massive change. And this is also something where, for sure, if you think about, is it a Duet or a Duel, it's an important question for us. For us as a company, it's clear. We fundamentally believe it must be a duet. It needs to help humanity. And we need to tackle the big topics in this regards. And also we need to take the fear away. I mean, there was also a study now from BCG about how many people actually are afraid that AI will take their jobs away. And perhaps we do that question here in the room. How many people of you believe that your job might be at risk based on AI? Show me the hands. Not even 10%. This is interesting, actually. Because BCG actually, with their survey, came to 40%. That 40% of the people in Germany believe that their jobs are at risk. There's another study from McKinsey that more than 300 million jobs will be touched by AI and changed by AI. The reality, though, also is, and it's the optimistic future, that actually even today, already, right now, 60% of all the jobs we all do have not been existing 1940. So basically all these technology advancements, what I talked about, the internet, cloud, also back then industrial revolutions, which we've seen, always have created jobs. It fundamentally helped the prosperity of society, each and every step. And that's what I also believe AI can do. But we need to embrace it. We all need to actively get engaged and make the best out of it. And for sure, it requires change. I talked about the need for enablement. I talked the need for an education system, for all of that, because everybody will be touched by AI in the future, if they know it or not. So for us, it's clear. It's an important aspect, and we take that super seriously. I can assure you from a development perspective of the company, our capacity shifted heavily into that category of AI, and we really move with everything what we have into the future. What is also important for me is that this time we also need to understand that adoption is key. Again, think about Industry 4.0, great concept. Actually, Germany was the trademark for Industry 4.0. If you go to China, they actually greet you with Industry 4.0, so there's even a hand expression for that in China. It's coming from Germany, but still the adoption is too low. For AI, we will not have this luxury considering the speed. And here, I want to actually close it with the topics that it's on all of us. Let's join forces, let's get together, as this community between the universities, research institutions, companies, governments, let's get together and as a society really move that forward with the respective optimistic view what it can help. But it also means for us as a country, if we don't want to accept the minus 0.3% decline in our GDP, if we don't accept that, this is a topic which can help us to increase that scale. So I'm looking forward to do that together with all of you together, and I believe fundamentally it's a duet and not a duel between the human and machine. And now I'm for sure very excited to get a little bit your questions, and with that I want to hand it over to Lukas again. So thanks so much for the attention.
Yeah, Thomas, thanks a lot for this very insightful vision you presented, the bold vision of SAP for your customers, for your ecosystem. Maybe one question. You talked a lot about your customers, your ecosystem. What is about SAP's employees? How do you get them on board for your strategy when it comes to AI?
That's actually a great question. From an SAP perspective, as mentioned, this topic will touch every single employee. And we started for sure in the technology and the development organization. So basically just actually 2 weeks ago, we had a global AI enablement day. So full day where every single employee in development and technology needed to learn about AI. And we gave time. I mean, training and learning is absolutely critical. And we actually will roll that out to the entire company with dedicated learning days. Fundamentally, every employee we learn about AI. It's absolutely necessary, and we have dedicated enablement and learning centers which we have built up, so COEs, basically in all the bigger locations and all board areas actually to drive the knowledge and enablement, which is absolutely critical. The key complexity in all of that is how fast moving that is, because this is not a one-time thing. What we see is on a daily basis is advancements of AI, which also means you need to rethink a little bit your learning and enablement approach in training. How can you have this continuous enablement and people continuously learn more about that aspect? And what I did actually, I challenged a little bit our learning organization in HR to say, look, we have now AI, so I would assume with the knowledge we have of our employees, which again we have our HR system, we know a lot about our skills of the employees, that we have personalized trainings because we know on which status they need to jump on. Because the worst thing is if you go to an AI training and you start with the fundamentals and you have experts already sitting there, which means personalized training, leveraging AI, is a good piece to really drive the up-leveling. But it's a key aspect, absolutely.
Thank you, Thomas. It was very insightful and very impressive what you do at SAP. Thanks a lot for your presentation and the vision you presented.
Thank you very much. Wish you a wonderful day.